Hi guys, I'm here to give you a very exciting book review. Today we're going to be discussing Tash Tolstoy by Kathryn Ormsbee. If you haven't heard about this book, I don't know where you've been. I've been talking about it forever because I am so psyched about it. I got this book to review early, so right now it's February of 2017, and this doesn't come out until June. Sadness. But thanks to Simon & Schuster for sending it to me because it literally, wow, it blew my mind. It was one of the best reads of this year, and it's only February. And this book is really important because it has an ace main character, and there aren't enough books with asexual main characters. Well, asexual characters, period, let alone main characters, so that's really exciting. This book is about a girl named Tash, and she identifies as asexual. More importantly, she runs a YouTube channel, and on that YouTube channel, she creates this web series that is basically like the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, except instead of Pride and Prejudice, she did Anna Karenina. Because who wouldn't want to convert that into a thrilling contemporary web series? Basically, it follows Tash as she creates this web series and it goes viral, and so she gets a lot of fame really quickly. But more than that, it's about how she has her romantic relationships with guys, specifically. She identifies as hetero-romantic asexual, which is what I identify with, so that's why I was like, I need to review this. And I know a lot of you have been really excited to hear my thoughts on it because this is me. Like, it's like me reading me, and that's really exciting. I freaking adored this book. This book is everything that I ever wanted ever. Like, I don't think I've ever read a book where I have identified so deeply with the main character, and it baffles me that it took me this long to find something like this because I truly thought I was being represented well in literature. Like, I'm a white girl who likes guys most of the time. Like, I should be well represented, and yet I have never read a book like this. Like, literally the whole time I was just underlining things and writing out like, me, same, me, same. If you are asexual or demisexual or graysexual or any of those things, you may or may not identify with the main character. She is hetero-romantic rather than like homo-romantic or biromantic or even aromantic. So if you are asexual, you're probably not going to feel fully identified unless you are like me, like this. But don't take that as like bad representation. I think there are a lot of lines that work for a lot of different gray sexualities, if that makes sense. There's a lot of lines that aren't just specific to like hetero-romantic asexuality. It's more of like the overarching like, I identify as asexual, and this is a line that like relates to most people. As is the case with any kind of representation, you may not feel fully represented because it is a very specific person who will identify with this book, and conveniently I happen to be in that little portion. But I invite you, highly recommend that you pick this up, especially if you're asexual. But if you're not asexual and you've been trying to understand like, what is it to be asexual? I don't understand. Like, literally read this book because I think it sheds some great light on what it's like to be asexual and to be hetero-romantic at that. I think a lot of people just assume that asexuality is just asexuality, like there's no romantic anything. Like, ace is really popular, but there's a lot of people who are like me who are like, I like guys, but I don't really want to do it with them. So yeah, I don't know. I adored this book. I thought it was really fun. It's a great contemporary read too, like perfect for the summertime. Also, they take a trip to Nashville, Tennessee, and I live in Nashville, Tennessee, so that was exciting. Highly recommend. Highly recommend. The rest of what I'm going to talk about is going to be a little bit spoilery. We're going to talk more about asexuality, so that's going to be fun, but I don't want to spoil you if you want to read it. There's not a lot of spoilers, but like, go read it and then come back. Here we go. This is like my favorite contemporary book that I've ever read because it's that important to me. I can't get over how much it was me. Like, even though there were times where I didn't fully identify with the main character because we have different personalities, I did feel like my essence was put in this book, and it was so strange because I've never had that feeling before. Like, I've identified with a lot of like girls or white people or like introverts or anything like that. Like, there's a lot of things that I do identify with in books, and that's great, but like literally everything about this book is so me. Like, YouTuber, hetero-romantic asexual, Nashville, Tennessee. Like, it's strange. I don't know how Kathryn did it, but like, I think she's stalking me. Let's talk about the characters first because I always do that. I really loved the characters in this book. I think Tash is a great character, but I also really loved her best friend Jack because Jack felt more like my kind of personality, even though I identified with Tash and her hobbies and like her asexuality and all that. Like, I am Jack, like in person. If you meet me, like I am literally Jack on so many levels. I love Tash because she YouTubes. She does the YouTube videos. Like, she is very much me in that sense. I haven't read a book about a YouTuber ever before, and so it was really, really cool to read that. And I think more than that, to see a web series play out like the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, oh my gosh, genius. Such a genius idea for a book. If you weren't around when the Lizzie Bennet Diaries were big, they were a hit back in like 2010, 2011, 2012, somewhere in there, that time period. And I remember when it was coming out, and I've seen a lot of it, if not all of it. And it's just such a brilliant idea to do a web series like that. And I'm actually kind of surprised this is the first book that I've seen with that storyline. More than that, I think it's really cool that Kathryn decided to do Tolstoy. I don't know why she chose Tolstoy out of all of them. Maybe the alliteration was calling to her. But Anna Karenina especially is a random book to like latch onto and make a web series about. But more than that, to like write a whole story based on a girl who loves Tolstoy is like very odd, because most girls don't like Tolstoy. So I was just intrigued by that aspect. I think if it had been me and I was making a web series, honestly, I would just make like Harry Potter. But that's not real. Oh my gosh, somebody should make a Harry Potter contemporary web series. I'm calling it right now in 10 years. I love Tash as a character. I think there were times where she showed her age. Like, it is definitely a teenage character, and she's definitely still a high schooler. There are a couple choices that she made with her life that I was like, nah, not a good idea. Why are you stripping in front of your best friend? I don't know. And even her relationship with Tom was very weird, odd. Like, I have grown up in this time period where people have internet friends. I know people who met on the internet and dated and are now engaged because of the internet. It's a fact of life. It happens. And there's still like stranger danger out there. Like, you do have to be very careful what you put online and who you talk to online. You do have to be safe in that sense. But I felt like she was a little bit naive in that relationships. Like, I would not have gone about that relationship that way, but I will talk about that more. Let's talk about Jack, because I really related to Jack too. Except for the times when Jack was talking about sexuality, I was very much like, this is me. I am Jack without purple hair. Like, oh my gosh, so to a T. I am very much that like stubborn, like cold shoulder, quiet person who doesn't cry a lot. I definitely love Jack's character. We got Paul, and we got Tom with an H. I really, really shipped Tasha and Paul since like their first moment together on the page. This book is pretty predictable in a lot of ways, but I didn't really mind that because I identified with it so heavily, and it was just such a really fun read, you know? And so I could kind of overlook the naivety and the, you know, cliche, but it's fine. I really, really loved Paul and Tash together though. I think they were really sweet, but I do kind of hate the trope where girl and guy are best friends. Guy clearly shows his love for girl, but girl is like, no, we're best friends. I'm not in love with him. He's not in love with me. This happens in a lot of series. I'm mainly thinking of Clary and Simon, but like, it happens so many times, and so that was one of the things that I was like, ooh, I wish you would done this differently, but it's fine. It's still really cute, and I did really like the scenes that they had together. I think they're a really cute couple, so like, I'm totally okay with that. Tom, I didn't really like him. Even in the beginning when she was like, oh my gosh, it's Tom. Like, I could definitely understand where she was coming from, having this like bigger celebrity YouTuber person paying attention to you and like talking more. Like, I get that totally. Not in a romantic sense, but I get that in like a friend sense. I do that all the time actually. Still, like, literally did not like him, especially when he blew her off and she was like, it's okay, he wants to go, like, we'll just go and I'll forget that this happened. I was like, no, don't do that. He's a bad person. Like, get out of there. And then she meets him and he's like, hey, Tash. And she's like, it's fine. Like, I can be Tash for you. Like, no, that's not okay. Tom just frustrated the crap out of me. He was very stupid and douchey, and he was being a dick, basically. And then we get to the hardest part of this book for me to read was Tom's reaction to Tosh. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I go through that scenario in my head literally every day. Like, whenever I think about, oh, what if I end up going on a date? What if I end up meeting a guy? What if I end up, like, almost kissing a guy? Like, literally every time I think about romance or love or a guy, I'm like, when is the proper time to tell somebody that you don't want to have sex with them? That was one of the most interesting parts of this book for me, because I was like, wow, so this is what would happen. I don't think that's what would happen every time, because clearly, like, Paul's okay with it, but that's one of my biggest fears, is to, like, get somewhere with a guy and then have to be like, by the way, I don't want that to happen. I think that was really brave of Kathryn to put that in there, because, like, I think there are a lot of asexual teenagers and girls and just, like, people in general who think about that scenario constantly. Like, it's always on my brain. Like, I don't know what would happen. I hope it would be good, but I don't know. Do I think she went about it the wrong way? Maybe. I don't know if I would have done that in her situation if that were to happen, but I haven't been in that situation, so I can't say. Like, I don't really know. I think part of her is correct in that I would want to be honest, and I would want the other person to know straight off the bat that, like, hey, that's not really on the table. I'm open to consideration in the future, but, like, right now it's not a thing. But I honestly legitimately fear that kind of rejection more than anything. Like, I can understand if people are like, oh, like, that's fine. If you don't want to have sex, I really want sex, so let's just not do it in general. Like, I'll break up with you, that's fine. Like, I can handle, like, that kind of rejection, but the rejection that Tom gave her with, like, you can't be asexual, like, that's not a thing, and, like, that hurt to read. And I know it was, it's supposed to hurt, and I'm really glad it was in there, but, like, it was so uncomfortable to read, because I was like, I really hope this doesn't happen to me someday. But I think it was important, and I really loved the asexual rep in this book. I think it was so well done. It was great. It was so relatable. The scene where she was talking about Titanic, I was like, that is it. That one paragraph, I was like, this is exactly how I feel. Like, people who watch Titanic for that scene, I'm like, I don't get it. Like, what is the draw to this? That is why I am not allosexual. I interviewed Kathryn, because she's wonderful. You can check out that interview on my channel. But I also was talking to her more specifically about her sexuality, just so that, like, I could figure out if it was own voices or not, because I know that's a very important thing to people these days. And when I talked to her about it, she said specifically it wasn't own voices because she doesn't exactly identify as heteroromantic asexual. So in that sense, it's not. But she said she kind of leans towards demisexuality. But in some ways, I feel like demisexuality is very, very similar to heteroromantic asexuality, and, like, demisexuality is definitely a legitimate sexuality. So even though it's not specifically own voices, as somebody who identifies with what the character identifies with, I can accurately say, like, this is very close. It may not exactly be that, and that might not be the phrase that's accurate for it, but it's hella accurate. Like, the rep in here is better than most rep that I think I have ever read, for me personally. I could tell that she's not completely allosexual, because those are some things that are, like, very specific that only asexual people feel. Overall, I just loved this book, and I was super enthralled by it since, like, the first page. I was like, yep, this is it. This is me. And through that, I've, like, more and more I'm realizing, like, if I felt this way about this book, like, we need more of that for more people. That's why diversity is so important. We need more books that people can latch onto and be like, this is me in a book. Like, I want that for you. I want that for people of color and other sexualities that are underrepresented. I want that for non-binary people. Like, I want it for all people. Those are my thoughts on this wonderful book by Kathryn Ormsbee. Like I said, you can go check out my interview with her. I did it at CFS this year, so that was really exciting. And I really would love to hear in the comments what you thought about this book. If you are asexual and you read this, did you feel well represented or no? And if you're not asexual and you read this, please tell me your thoughts, because I would love to hear it from an allosexual point of view, just to, like, feel what you feel, because I definitely understood this book, and I would be curious to see if non-asexual people did too. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will talk to you again in my next video. Bye!